Welcome, miladies of inestimable value. The most dangerous liars are the ones who believe their own lies. Liars come in all shapes, sizes, and motives, but what unites them is the audacity to think they can pull a fast one over anyone. Yet there's a particular breed of person who sees through the deceit like glass, the Sigma female. For her, spotting a lie is like catching a bad perfume in a crowded room, impossible to ignore no matter how much it tries to blend in. Did you know that 60% of people can't go 10 minutes without telling some kind of lie? It's no surprise, then, that the world is full of those who bend the truth just to get their way. But for a Sigma female, dealing with these truth benders is an art. She's the quiet observer in the corner, clocking every inconsistency, every exaggeration, every fake tear. Where most would fall for the charms or the sob stories, she's 10 steps ahead, knowing exactly what game is being played, and trust me, her patience for liars is shorter than a Snapchat story. But how exactly does she navigate this world of falsehoods? Well, let's just say, if you're the liar, you're in for a rude awakening. Buckle up, because we're diving into the 10 types of liars and how the Sigma female turns the tables on every single one of them. Number 1, the half-truth manipulators. The half-truth manipulator is a master at mixing just enough reality into their lies to make them almost believable. They slip in a few facts, maybe a detail or two that checks out, but everything else is smoke and mirrors. To most people, it's convincing enough to pass the smell test, but a Sigma female, she can sniff out these fabrications like a bloodhound on a mission. She listens carefully, noting the little inconsistencies and the suspicious gaps in their stories. But she doesn't jump to call them out. Instead, she lets them keep talking, lets them dig that hole just a bit deeper, because she knows that the more they elaborate, the more tangled their web becomes. She uses a tactic that leaves the half-truth manipulator sweating: strategic silence. It's unnerving, like when you crack a joke that falls flat, but worse, because she's not giving anything away. No nodding, no challenging. Just an unbothered gaze that says, "Go on, I'm listening." And that silence, that lack of reaction, is her secret weapon. The manipulator starts second-guessing themselves, wondering if she bought the story or if they should throw in another half-baked fact. It's a game of mental chess, but she's already several moves ahead. When she does speak, it's with laser-like questions that cut straight to the inconsistencies. It's like watching a detective zero in on a suspect, revealing all the flaws in their story until they're left with nowhere to hide. By the time she's done, the half-truth manipulator is usually squirming, realizing they've been exposed without her ever having to raise her voice. For the Sigma female, there's no need for drama or confrontation, just a quiet, ruthless dismantling of every lie, one carefully chosen word at a time. Number 2, the ego stroker. The ego stroker is the type of liar who loves to make themselves sound larger than life, always boasting about their grand achievements, fabulous lifestyle, or endless list of admirers. They throw around stories of how they single-handedly saved the day, or exaggerated tales about their exclusive social circles. Most people get swept up in the charm and the glitter of these stories, but not a Sigma female. She sees right through the inflated narratives, spotting the desperation hiding behind each boast. Instead of directly calling out the lies, she employs a tactic that's much more devastating. She lets them talk. The ego stroker thrives on validation, expecting nods and admiration, but all they get from her is a calm, almost bored expression. It's like offering a stand-up comedian an empty audience. They keep trying to up the ante, throwing in more ridiculous claims, hoping to finally impress her. But her lack of interest is like kryptonite to their ego. Her silence feels louder than any outright challenge, leaving them floundering in their own hype. When the stories become too outrageous, she might casually ask a question that pokes a hole in their tale. Not to embarrass them outright, but just enough to make them squirm a little. She's not trying to humiliate, just reminding them that she's not buying the sales pitch. It's almost funny to watch the shift, the way their confidence wavers as they realize they're not fooling her. And then the conversation changes. The ego stroker usually tones it down, unsure if they've just met someone who's either too sharp to impress or simply too uninterested to care. Either way, she's in control, and they're left trying to figure out where their charm went wrong. In the end, she knows one truth. There's no need to battle egos when they unravel themselves all on their own. Number 3, the victim liar. The victim liar has a special talent for turning any situation into a personal tragedy, weaving tales of misfortune and betrayal to win sympathy. They always have a story ready about how the world is out to get them, wronged at every turn, misunderstood by everyone, and never at fault. It's the kind of manipulation that usually pulls at people's heartstrings, luring them into offering support or giving them the benefit of the doubt. But for a Sigma female, those strings stay firmly untugged. She doesn't fall for the theatrics because she sees the game for what it is, a way to shift blame and avoid accountability. While others might rush in with comforting words, she stays cool and unresponsive. Her lack of emotional reaction is the victim liar's worst nightmare because they thrive on attention, especially pity. Without it, their story loses power. The more they lay it on thick, the more she watches with a polite but distant gaze, the kind that says, "And what are you going to do about it?" If she does engage, she's not going to coddle them with sympathy. Instead, she'll calmly point out the inconsistencies in their narrative or ask questions that subtly challenge their version of events. It's never aggressive, but it's enough to make the victim liar feel like they're on shaky ground. She's essentially saying, "Sure, life is tough, but what's your next move?" And this approach catches them off guard. They came looking for a savior or a shoulder to cry on, but they find a mirror reflecting back their own lack of responsibility. In the end, the victim liar usually backs off, realizing that their usual tricks don't work here. It's like trying to light a match in a downpour. No spark, no flame, just the cold realization that this time, the pity party is over before it even began. Number 4, the pathological fantasist. The pathological liar is in a league of their own, lying about everything from the trivial to the serious without even breaking a sweat. They lie like it's second nature, often without a clear reason or end goal. It's as if the truth is just a pesky little inconvenience that they've long since learned to ignore. Most people struggle to keep up with their constantly shifting stories, but a Sigma female? She picks up on the chaos with a kind of unflinching clarity. She knows that confronting a pathological liar with facts and logic is like trying to teach a fish how to ride a bicycle. Instead, she focuses on observation. She notes the patterns, the contradictions, and the inconsistencies that pile up as they spin their tangled web. But she's too smart to get caught up in their drama. While others might be distracted by the endless stream of elaborate stories, she sees the bigger picture, the motive behind all those little fabrications. Her approach is to simply never give the liar what they crave, a reaction. When they try to impress her with exaggerated tales or outright fabrications, she gives them the same energy she would give a toddler showing off a crayon drawing, polite but unimpressed. It's that subtle disinterest that throws them off balance. And when she does choose to speak, she has a way of slipping in a question or comment that forces them to rethink their own narrative, planting seeds of doubt without them even realizing it. Eventually, the pathological liar starts to feel the pressure of their own inconsistencies. They might never admit they've been caught, but they sense they're no longer fooling anyone, least of all her. It's like watching a magician realize their sleight of hand isn't landing anymore. And that's when they usually retreat, leaving her with the satisfaction of knowing they'll think twice before trying to sell her another story. Number 5, the gossip addict. The gossip addict thrives on the drama, constantly spinning rumors and half-truths about everyone around them. They love the thrill of being the first to spill the latest scandal, and they have a knack for making it sound juicy enough to reel others in. Most people get caught up in their whispers, either out of curiosity or fear of missing out on the latest dirt. But a Sigma female, she's not about to let herself get dragged into their messy web of rumors and petty chatter. When the gossip addict tries to pull her into a conversation filled with drama, she stays calm and disinterested. She doesn't give them the satisfaction of a shocked reaction or an eager ear. Instead, she either redirects the conversation to something more meaningful or shuts it down completely with a few cold, straightforward words. It's like throwing a wet blanket on a bonfire. Suddenly, the excitement fizzles out. The gossip addict is left with nowhere to go, realizing that their juicy story doesn't have the effect they'd hoped for. Her refusal to engage sends a clear message. She values authenticity and truth over backstabbing chatter. It's a quiet but powerful stance, one that makes the gossip addict feel the weight of their own pettiness. They quickly understand that she's not someone who can be swayed by cheap thrills or sensational stories, and that realization often leaves them feeling exposed, as if their own motives have been laid bare without her ever having to call them out directly. For the Sigma female, this isn't about being self-righteous. It's about maintaining a space free of unnecessary drama and noise. She knows that those who constantly talk about others will eventually talk about her, and she has no interest in feeding that fire. It's a subtle but firm way of showing that she's not interested in rumors, only in real conversations that matter. Number 6. The gaslighter. The gaslighter is a master manipulator, always trying to twist reality just enough to make you second-guess what you know to be true. They're skilled at planting seeds of doubt, turning their mistakes or misdeeds into something that seems like it's your fault, until you start questioning your own memory or judgment. It's a tactic that works frighteningly well on most people, making them feel like they're the ones losing their grip on reality. But with a Sigma female, the gaslighter is up against an entirely different challenge. She stays anchored in her own reality, grounded in her sense of self. Her confidence comes from a deep understanding of who she is and what she's experienced, making it nearly impossible for the gaslighter to shift her perception. When they try to twist the facts, she doesn't get defensive or flustered. She calmly points out the discrepancies with an almost unnerving clarity. It's like trying to move a mountain with a feather. The more they try to distort the truth, the more she sees right through it. What truly disarms the gaslighter is her refusal to play along with their mind games. She doesn't get sucked into emotional debates or let their accusations shake her. Instead, she keeps a cool, level-headed demeanor, which only serves to highlight how desperate their attempts at manipulation really are. She'll call out their contradictions in a matter-of-fact tone, almost as if she's reading off a list of facts, leaving them scrambling to keep up with their own lies. It's frustrating for the gaslighter because their usual tricks, planting confusion, making their victim doubt themselves, just don't stick. With a Sigma female, they're left standing in the spotlight of their own deceptions, with nowhere to hide. It's a losing game for them, one they're not used to playing, and eventually they realize they're the ones losing control. In her presence, their power fades, and they're left confronting a truth they can't manipulate, that she won't bend to their distortions no matter how hard they try. Number 7. The sweet talker. The sweet talker is an expert in the art of charm, using flattery and sugary words to get what they want. They know just how to turn a phrase, making empty promises sound like heartfelt commitments and bending the truth until it glitters. To most, their words are like honey, sweet, smooth, and easy to swallow. But when they come up against a Sigma female, all that sweet talk suddenly loses its flavor. She's not impressed by grand compliments or poetic flattery. To her, actions always speak louder than words, and she's got no time for someone trying to pull the wool over her eyes with pretty phrases. When the sweet talker tries to win her over with their smooth lines, she doesn't get swept up in the charm. Instead, she cuts right through their sugar-coated narrative with direct, pointed questions that leave them fumbling. She's the type to ask, "What exactly do you mean by that?" Or, "How do you plan to follow through on that promise?" Questions that force the sweet talker to actually back up their words. This puts the sweet talker in an uncomfortable spot. They're used to getting away with empty compliments, skating by on charm alone, but now they're faced with someone who won't be swayed by flattery. The Sigma female's preference for clarity over compliments means that the sweet talker's game starts to crumble. When they realize that she's not going to respond to sweet nothings, they find themselves struggling to keep up their act. It's like trying to sell air to someone who only deals in solid goods. She's just not buying it. In the end, the sweet talker often retreats, knowing they've lost their edge. Their usual tricks don't work on her, and they're left grappling with the realization that they'll have to come up with something more substantial than charm if they want to keep her attention. But by then, she's already moved on, leaving them with their flowery words and no one to impress. Number 8. The mirror liar. The mirror liar has mastered the art of reflection, shape-shifting their personality to fit in with any crowd. They're chameleons, molding their opinions, interests, and even values to align with whoever they're speaking to at the moment. It's a sad little dance of insecurity, and while they think they're blending in seamlessly, a Sigma female sees right through their thin veneer. She recognizes that beneath the surface, there's a desperate need for validation and acceptance that drives their constant need to mirror others. When the mirror liar tries to engage her with a version of themselves that they believe she'll like, she doesn't call them out or make a scene. Instead, she responds with a polite, distant smile, which is her way of holding up a mirror of her own. It's a subtle but powerful message that communicates, "I see you for who you really are." This response leaves the mirror liar feeling exposed, as if they're standing in front of an audience with their real self on display, naked and vulnerable. The Sigma female knows that confronting them directly can often lead to defensiveness or further deception. So she lets her silence do the talking, creating a space where they can either continue to play their role or confront the truth of their own insecurities. Her calm demeanor sends a message that she won't engage in their game of pretense. And that's when they start to falter. They realize that their insincere reflections are falling flat, and for the first time they may feel a flicker of doubt about their approach. In a way, her distant smile is liberating for the mirror liar. It prompts them to question why they feel the need to adapt so drastically to gain acceptance. It's a chance for self-reflection that they likely hadn't considered before. Ultimately, while they might not change overnight, the Sigma female's lack of interest in their facades plants a seed of doubt that can lead to introspection. In her presence, they're faced with the realization that authenticity holds far more value than fitting in, and that's a lesson that lingers long after the conversation ends. Number 9. The ghost liar. The ghost liar operates in the shadows, weaving tales that seem coherent on the surface but are riddled with omissions. They skillfully leave out critical details, allowing their listener to fill in the blanks with whatever assumptions or interpretations they choose. This strategy can work wonders for the inexperienced, but a Sigma female is no amateur. She possesses an intuitive radar that picks up on the gaps in their narrative faster than they can spin their story. When the ghost liar tries to spin their half-truths, the Sigma female remains unfazed. Rather than accepting their version at face value, she listens carefully, her mind working like a finely tuned machine. She picks up on the subtle cues, hesitations in their voice, fleeting expressions, and the way their eyes dart away when they mention a key detail. While they think they're cleverly sidestepping the truth, she knows better. It's not just about what they say, it's about what they don't say that tells the real story. With her trademark directness, she starts to probe, employing pinpointed questions that force the ghost liar to confront their own omissions. What about the time you mentioned your colleague? How did that impact your decision? Or, you didn't say how that conversation ended, care to elaborate? Each question is a strategic move designed to reveal more than they intended. It's like watching a skilled chess master dismantle an amateur's game in just a few swift moves. The ghost liar, caught off guard, finds themselves scrambling to keep their narrative intact. As the conversation unfolds, the ghost liar realizes they're trapped in their own web of deception. The Sigma female's incisive questions cut through the fog, exposing the weaknesses in their story. With each answer they give, they inadvertently disclose more information than they initially intended. Her confidence and assertiveness create an environment where the ghost liar feels compelled to fill in the blanks, often leading them to reveal truths they would have preferred to keep hidden. In the end, it's not just about catching them in a lie. It's about disarming them through a combination of insight and inquiry. The Sigma female's ability to navigate the complexities of their deception turns the tables, forcing the ghost liar to confront the reality of their own story and, possibly, their own insecurities. While they may have entered the conversation thinking they could manipulate the truth, they leave with a newfound respect for someone who plays the game at a much higher level. Number 10. The over-apologizer. The over-apologizer navigates life with a seemingly endless supply of apologies, tossing them around like confetti at a parade. They excel at expressing remorse for their mistakes, but there's a distinct lack of sincerity behind those words. Instead of genuine regret, their apologies serve as a convenient shield to deflect accountability. For them, it's easier to say, "I'm sorry," than to take ownership of their actions. This tactic might work on those who prefer to hear sweet words, but a Sigma female is not easily swayed by superficial gestures. When confronted with an over-apologizer, the Sigma female quickly recognizes the pattern. She knows that apologies without action are just empty noise. Instead of getting caught up in their cycle of regret, she cuts straight to the chase. Her approach is clear. She demands accountability, something that the over-apologizer is surprisingly resistant to. "What are you going to do about it?" she asks, her voice calm yet firm. This question often leaves them floundering, as they're unaccustomed to having to follow up their words with tangible action. This dynamic can be particularly disconcerting for the over-apologizer, who might expect her to accept their sorries without scrutiny. But she doesn't have time for verbal hand-holding. She's not interested in hearing how sorry they are. She wants to see change. When they fail to provide it, it becomes evident that their apologies are nothing more than a facade meant to maintain the status quo. The Sigma female's patience runs thin when faced with insincerity. She's fully aware that words are cheap and often used as a crutch to evade the hard work of making amends. So, when the over-apologizer continues to offer up half-hearted contrition without any intention of changing their behavior, she simply moves on. For her, life is too short to waste on people who can't own up to their mistakes. She knows her worth, and she refuses to settle for relationships built on empty words and unfulfilled promises. In the end, the over-apologizer is left staring at their own reflection, realizing that their apologies have cost them more than they anticipated. While they might cling to the hope that words alone can fix their missteps, the Sigma female's decisive action speaks volumes. She moves forward, leaving them to grapple with the reality that in a world where actions truly matter, her silence becomes her most potent message. In navigating the complex world of deception, Sigma females shine as beacons of clarity and strength. They possess an uncanny ability to dissect the intentions behind words, recognizing that true authenticity lies not in grandiose statements, but in the consistent actions that follow. Whether facing the gossip addict, gaslighter, sweet talker, mirror liar, ghost liar, or over-apologizer, their unique perspective empowers them to handle every type of liar with grace and resolve. They set clear boundaries, demand accountability, and refuse to engage in the toxic dance of deceit, leading by example in a world that often seems enamored with half-truths and false facades. Ultimately, Sigma females teach us that honesty is not just a virtue. It's a strength that fosters genuine connections and a deeper understanding of ourselves and those around us. They remind us that navigating relationships with integrity is not just about exposing lies, but also about embracing authenticity in all aspects of life. If you've enjoyed this exploration into the dynamic between Sigma females and the various types of liars, don't forget to subscribe to our Queenly Quest channel. Join our community for more insights, stories, and powerful perspectives that challenge the status quo and elevate your understanding of human interactions. Let's continue this journey together, because the more we learn, the better equipped we become to navigate the complexities of our relationships and ourselves. Thanks for watching, Jules. See you in the next video. Bye for now and stay blessed.